It started so quietly that I almost didn't notice. A few months back, my wife began going out for girls' nights more often. At first, I thought nothing of it, everyone needs time with friends. But these weren't just any friends. They were all either single or recently divorced, and from the way they spoke about relationships, it was clear they didn't see marriage as something worth protecting. The change was gradual, but it was there. What began as an occasional happy hour turned into a weekly ritual of late nights, loud music, and a different outfit every time. She'd slip out the door in dresses I hadn't seen before, makeup flawless, heels high, hair done like she was walking into a photo shoot. And she didn't come home the same way she left, sometimes tipsy, sometimes drunk, always later than she'd promised. At first, she'd text if she was running late. That stopped. Instead, I'd get vague, one-line messages like, "Don't wait up," if I got anything at all. She was different at home, too. The little routines we used to share, cooking together, watching Netflix, talking about our day, started disappearing. She was there physically, but her attention was somewhere else. Often, glued to her phone, smiling at messages I wasn't meant to see. I told myself not to overthink it. People go through phases, right? But then, the red flags started stacking up. She was dressing up not just for nights out, but even for quick trips to the gym. Her phone, once something we could both use freely, was suddenly locked with a new passcode. If I walked into the room while she was texting, the screen would tilt away or the conversation would end instantly. The moment that really got under my skin came one night when I overheard her on a video call with one of her friends. I couldn't catch the whole thing, but I did hear her friend say, "You deserve it if he's not giving you attention." Jen quickly shushed her. And that line? That's the one that stuck with me. Because I couldn't stop wondering, what exactly did she mean by it? Not long after the late nights began, another name started slipping into her conversations, Chris. At first, it was casual. A passing mention that he'd shown her a new protein shake recipe at the gym, or that he'd benched some ridiculous amount of weight that day. But as the weeks went by, his name came up more often, and with a tone I didn't like. A little too warm. A little too eager. One night over dinner, she mentioned him for the third time that week, smiling as she talked. That's when I asked the question I'd been holding back, "Who's Chris?" Her reaction was instant, defensive, almost irritated. She told me he was just a guy in her workout class. "We talk sometimes. That's it. Don't make it a big deal." She said it like the problem wasn't the fact that this stranger had become a regular feature in her day, but that I had dared to notice. I let it go, at least on the surface. But it wasn't just the words, it was how she said his name, the way she smiled when she talked about him. And then came the night she was getting ready to go out with her friends. She was dressed like it was a date, short dress, high heels, perfume she usually saved for anniversaries. I half joked, "You sure you're not secretly going on a date?" Her reply cut a little too close. "Insecure much? My friends say you don't appreciate me anymore." I asked her what that meant. She shrugged and said, "Maybe if you paid a little more attention, I wouldn't have to seek it elsewhere." It was one of those moments where the world goes quiet for a second, like you're trying to process if you actually heard what you think you heard. I asked, "Seek what elsewhere, exactly?" But she backpedaled immediately, said she just meant attention and validation, that her friends gave her what I hadn't been lately. Then she left, heels clicking out the door, leaving me in the silence with a thought I couldn't shake. If she was already talking about finding it somewhere else, maybe she already had. If you want to understand how things got this far, you need to know about the 3 women my wife now spends most of her time with. The first is Mia. She's recently divorced, and from what Jen's told me, it wasn't a peaceful ending. Her ex cheated, the split was messy, and somewhere along the way she seems to have decided that all men are the same. She tells Jen that she should live her life and stop worrying so much about being a good wife, which, in her mind, apparently means acting like she's single again. Then there's Tara. On paper, she's in the happiest phase of her life, engaged, wedding planned for next year. In reality, you wouldn't know she was taken. From what Jen has mentioned, Tara is the life of the party, grinding on strangers, doing shots with whoever's buying, disappearing for chunks of the night. I don't know if her fiancé has any idea who he's actually marrying. The youngest of the group is Lena. She's never been married and has zero interest in settling down. She's the free spirit of the trio, the type who says things like relationships are a trap and monogamy is outdated while sipping a cocktail on someone else's tab. Put them together, and you get a cocktail of bad advice, impulsive choices, and zero accountability. And now, they're in my wife's ear. The first time I met them, months ago, back when I thought they were just her new yoga class friends, they seemed harmless. But now? I can see the shift. They laugh a little too loudly when I'm around, like they're in on some private joke I wouldn't find funny. They hype each other up about living their best lives, while painting me as some neglectful, joy-killing husband. They aren't just influencing her. They're validating her every questionable decision. And I have a sinking feeling they're not just encouraging her to have fun, they're pushing her towards something much worse. By this point, the unease was eating me alive. I didn't want to keep guessing, so I picked a calm Sunday afternoon to finally sit Jen down. No distractions, no raised voices, just the two of us in the living room. I told her exactly how I felt. How I'd noticed the changes, the secrecy, the way her friends seemed to be steering her toward trouble. I admitted my own faults, that I'd been busy with work, maybe a little distant, but I made it clear I wanted to fix things. I asked her to meet me halfway, set boundaries, and cut back on anything that might disrespect our marriage. It didn't go the way I'd hoped. Her expression hardened almost immediately. So now my friends are the problem, she snapped. You just hate that I have a life outside of you. I tried to explain that wasn't it, but she wasn't listening. When I brought up Chris from the gym, her eyes rolled so far back I thought they might get stuck. She swore nothing happened and accused me of assuming the worst. Then I reminded her of what she'd said, that maybe if I paid more attention, she wouldn't have to seek it elsewhere. She froze for a second, then claimed I was twisting her words. According to her, she just meant she felt lonely, and her friends, and yes, even Chris, gave her positive attention I hadn't been giving lately. She turned it back on me. You checked out first. You pushed me to find other people to talk to. The conversation was sliding into a blame game, and I could feel myself losing patience. I asked if she'd consider marriage counseling. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Why? So a therapist can also tell you to stop ignoring your wife?" When I pressed harder, asking if she or her friends had been crossing lines with other men, she dodged the question entirely, accusing me of being controlling and paranoid. The voices got louder. The tension heavier. And then she stormed out to get some air. That night, she slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. We barely spoke the next day, exchanging only polite, empty sentences. It was a cold war in our own house, and I realized something important. Talking wasn't going to fix this. If I wanted answers, I was going to have to see the truth for myself. Once I accepted that talking wouldn't get me anywhere, the decision came quickly: if she wouldn't give me answers, I'd have to find them myself. I wasn't going to hire some stranger to dig into my marriage. I had two people I trusted more than anyone, Mark and Danny. We'd been friends since college, the kind of friends who've seen you at your best and worst. They already knew bits of what had been going on, and they hated what her friends seemed to be pushing her toward. When I told them my plan, they didn't hesitate. The mission was simple: the next time Jen went out with her friends, they'd be there, blending in with the crowd, watching from a distance. If anything questionable happened, they'd get it on camera. The opportunity came faster than I expected. The morning after one of our worst fights, Jen casually mentioned she was going out that Friday. Don't wait up, she said, like it was nothing, like my opinion didn't even factor into the decision. Inside, I was boiling. Outside, I just said, okay. That Friday night, Mark and Danny planned to arrive at the club before the girls did, scope the place out, and position themselves where they could keep eyes on the whole group. They knew each friend's name, general look, and, most importantly, exactly who to focus on. In the days leading up to it, the tension at home was suffocating. Jen and I were barely speaking, and when we did, it was all surface-level politeness. But I could see the excitement in her eyes when she texted her friends, picking out outfits, sending pictures of dresses she might wear. She wasn't even trying to hide it. She thought I was letting this go. She had no idea I was setting the stage to find out exactly what those nights really looked like. Friday night arrived like a slow drumbeat in my chest. I stayed home, pretending to have a quiet night in, while Jen got ready as if she were stepping onto a red carpet, black dress hugging her figure, high heels, makeup so perfect it could stop traffic. The perfume hit me as she walked past, the one she usually saved for anniversaries or special dates. But there was no lingering kiss, no warm goodbye. Just a quick, casual, see you later. Mark and Danny checked in shortly after she left. We're in, Mark texted. We've got eyes. For a while, there was silence. I tried to distract myself with Netflix, but the minutes crawled. Then, close to midnight, my phone buzzed again. From Mark, dude, it's bad. I'm getting vids. Those next 20 minutes felt like hours. My mind ran through every possibility, each one worse than the last. Finally, Danny's message came, we're leaving now. Got plenty of footage. Talk soon. They showed up at my place around 1 a.m., their faces tight, their voices low. You're not going to like this, Mark said, queuing up the first video on his phone. The images hit like a punch to the gut. First, the dance floor, Jen's two friends draped over strangers, hands everywhere, laughing like they were on spring break. In the background, my wife was at the bar with a tall guy in a button-down. They stood close, too close. She was tilting her head, twirling her hair, leaning in to touch his arm. The next clip was shakier, filmed as Danny moved through the crowd. This time, she was dancing with the same guy. His hands rested low on her waist, her arms looped around his neck. They moved together like they'd been doing it all night. At one point, she laughed and leaned in so close her lips brushed his ear. Then came the final blow, the one I almost couldn't watch. Jen and that same guy, pressed against a wall near the back of the club, locked in a full-on kiss. Not a quick peck. Not a drunk, impulsive moment. This was slow, deliberate, passionate. Her hands tangled in his hair. His hands roamed like they owned her. And on her left hand, nothing. The wedding ring she'd worn when she left home was gone. Mark didn't have to say it, but he did anyway, she took it off, man. She didn't leave with him, at least not that night. My friends made sure of that. But it didn't matter. In that moment, seeing her like that, I knew. Whatever trust we'd built over 10 years had just been erased. I didn't confront her that night. When she stumbled in around 2:30 a.m., I was in bed pretending to be asleep. I couldn't trust myself to look at her without saying something that would set the whole house on fire. She showered, slipped into bed like nothing had happened, and within minutes was breathing evenly beside me, as if the night had been perfectly innocent. But I wasn't done. If I was going to burn my marriage to the ground, I wasn't going to let her friends walk away untouched. Mark and Danny hadn't just filmed Jen. They'd caught Mia and Tara in acts that would shatter their own relationships. Tara, the one engaged to be married in a few months, left the club hand in hand with another man after making out with him at the bar. Mia, the divorced, free spirit, disappeared into the bathroom with a guy she'd been kissing for half the night. By Sunday evening, I had all the clips organized, the clearest ones, with timestamps and faces visible. Then I started tracking down the people who needed to see them. Tara's fiancé was easy to find. I remembered his last name, found him on Facebook, and from there got his email. Mia's boyfriend was listed right on her profile. The messages I sent were short and anonymous. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you need to know what happened on, date, at, club name. The attached video shows your partner engaging in inappropriate behavior. I thought you should see it before making any big decisions. By Monday morning, the fuse was lit. I didn't hear back from Mia's boyfriend directly, but I did get a text from an unknown number that just said, "Thanks for letting me know." Tara's fiancé replied asking for more proof, which I sent without hesitation. After that, silence. Around noon, Jen's phone started lighting up. Furious calls. Long texts from her friends. The friend group was imploding in real time, and she knew exactly who had struck the match. She came home early, stormed into the living room, and went straight for it. "Did you send those videos?" I didn't dodge. Yes. They deserved to know the truth, just like I did. That's when her voice cracked. The denial didn't last. The tears came. She admitted to kissing the guy, insisted it was just one stupid, drunken night, and swore nothing more had happened. Said she'd been frustrated, lonely, egged on by her friends. Claimed it was the first and last time. I listened. I didn't yell. But when she finished, I told her the truth. One night doesn't erase the weeks of secrecy, lies, and choices that led up to it. The trust was gone. And there was no coming back. Her tears didn't change anything. She kept saying it was a mistake, that she fell in with the wrong crowd, that she never stopped loving me. But love doesn't look like taking off your wedding ring to kiss another man in a club. Love doesn't hide behind locked phones and late nights while blaming the person you vowed to be faithful to. I told her exactly that. This wasn't an accident, I said. It was a series of choices. You lied to me, badmouthed me to your friends, chased another man's attention, and then you crossed the line. You knew what you were doing every step of the way. She tried one last time. You're really going to throw away 10 years over one stupid night? I didn't even hesitate. I'm not the one who threw them away. You did that the second you decided I wasn't enough. The conversation ended there. I told her to pack a bag and stay somewhere else for now, maybe with her parents, maybe with one of the few friends she had left. I needed space. More than that, I needed this chapter to end. We have no kids, no joint property, no tangled finances. I told her I'd be calling a lawyer in the morning to make the divorce quick and clean. She didn't argue. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to fight for. After she left, the house felt strangely still. Not peaceful, just empty. I sat on the couch, drained, replaying the past few months in my head. Every red flag, every excuse, every moment I told myself I was overthinking. I wasn't. The friend group? Gone. Each of them now dealing with their own wreckage. Tara's wedding is off. Mia's boyfriend is out. Lena's just. Lena, free and unattached, probably already moving on to the next party. As for me? I'll be okay. I have Mark and Danny in my corner, my family backing me, and a therapist lined up to help me work through the anger. I don't know exactly what comes next, but I do know this: I'd rather be alone than be with someone who looks me in the eye while living a double life. Because the truth hurts. But living with a lie? That would have hurt a hell of a lot more.